Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be doing a quick video, not so much a review, but kind of a comparison and a is it worth it type of look at the new cable that just came out in the latest wave from Marvel Legends. As far as a review on this guy goes, look, everybody's seen this guy. It's a standard Marvel Legend, but it is Cable, who has not gotten a whole lot of figures over the years, even though you do see a few of them in front of you. But we kind of know what to expect. And it is a solid figure, and I think everybody's realized that, hence the reason why this guy has been incredibly hard to actually get a hold of for a lot of people, even when they've pre-ordered him. This was a figure a lot of people wanted. I absolutely understand and get it, and he's in a costume that has, over the years, become very popular for him, kind of this standard X-Men blue and yellow costume. A lot of people wanted this, but how does it compare? How does it stack up with other Cable figures that we've gotten over the years? Now, I by no means have all the Cable figures here. You can see these are the only 5 that I currently have, one of which, this one right here, is a kit bashed Cable figure. How does he compare to these other figures? We're going to take a look and see what we've got going on here. So first up, let's address this guy right here. This is an old Toy Biz figure, and we're just going to kind of put him kind of off to the side. I did want to show you guys here. I do like this figure a lot, but he is tiny compared to the other figures here. He's misproportioned with the size of his head versus the size of his body, and his arms and then his legs are very small comparatively as well. I do love the sculpting design on this guy, especially on the arm, and I think the head looks good if it was bigger. And I also like the costume. I mean, there's a reason why I have this figure, but really not something you're going to be really considering if you're looking to just put one Cable into your collection. And then I'll say the same thing about this one. This is my little kit bashed one that I have here, using the body of this guy here, the head of this guy over here, and then a G.I. Joe Classifieds kind of flak jacket there, which I like this figure, and I'm glad I kit bashed him and gives a Cable a nice new look. But, you know, again, we're talking about comparatively what are kind of the go-to Cables out there in the Marvel Legends line that if you wanted just one Cable on your shelf, you'd be looking at picking up. And let's be honest, it's going to be these 3 right here. So we've got the new one here. We've got this one here, which I don't even remember what wave this is from, to be honest, anymore. This is, I believe, from the Sasquatch Build-A-Figure wave. Between these 3 figures, which one's the best? Well, obviously that's going to be personal preference. I will say the thing that stands out the most to me about this new figure is going to be his arm. And I don't know how well it comes across on camera. The shine on that metal arm is absolutely gorgeous, and it might not come across on camera very well at all, but that is beautifully done. And I know it's all molded plastic, but whatever plastic they used to get that beautiful kind of dark silver shine looks absolutely great, especially when comparing to these 2 here, which just kind of have a dull plastic silvery look. That is the thing to me that stands out the most about this. Now, is that enough to have this be your only Cable in your collection? No, it's not, in my opinion. But it does stand out really, really nice. And again, looking at the rest of him, I dig the costume. This is a very popular costume in the comics, getting him in some kind of traditional X-Men colors and everything. The head sculpt looks great. I think they did a fantastic job on that. The guns, to be honest, are a little underwhelming. I'm used to Cable, like with these guys here, having just absolutely massive, huge guns. So that's a little bit underwhelming. And then, you know, with no shoulder pads and things like that. So there are some kind of downsides to this guy that I think a lot of people have realized that make him not pop as much as they'd like to, because I do see a lot of customs going on where they're replacing the arm, where they're putting the shoulder pads on him and doing stuff like that to kind of give him a little bit more of that Cable vibe that we're kind of used to, that we see here with these 2 figures. Now, if you're looking for like the perfect one and done Cable, I think there's a lot of aspects to these 2 figures that probably fit in better with the nature of Cable and the history of Cable than this guy does here, even though there's some great things to talk about here. This guy right here, I think, is just a really great look for Cable. I dig all the armor and everything on him, on the torso. The head sculpt looks great. This is kind of, I believe, an early 2000s-esque style for Cable, and I think they did a fantastic job on this. It's a really, really good, solid look for him. Not the classic look, and he's not in traditional X-Men colors, so I understand why that's not a lot of people's favorite, but it is a really solid look, and I dig that quite a bit for Cable. This one here, of course, is the one I think that was the go-to for a lot of people for a really long time, because this is the classic quintessential look for Cable going back to New Mutants and X-Force, and this was his look for a very, very long time. It's probably the look that most people associate with Cable, and I completely understand why. As somebody who was reading comics, I was a huge fan of New Mutants, and I fell right into X-Force once that series ended. This is the traditional look for Cable. However, when I take a look at the figure, there are downsides to it compared to this new one. He's a little bit shorter and stouter, which I get, but Cable needs to be huge, and I think that just overall body length, leg length, things like that are much better on these two figures here, specifically on the new one, than on this one here. His legs are a little shorter, his arms are a little shorter, he's very wide and imposing, and he's got all the, you know, the pouches and the shoulder pads and all the stuff and the huge gun there on his back, but I think his proportions could be a little bit better. I will say, however, that I do think his head sculpt is a lot better. It's more classic Cable head sculpt compared to this new one here, which gives a little bit more of that kind of modern Nathan Summers Cable vibe than the original Cable did, but either way, I think they're both still great figures. If I had to sit here right now and pick one Cable between these three, which I do think are the three most popular go-to Cables that exist, if I had to pick one right now to be the Cable on my shelf, and I couldn't do any kit bashing, couldn't make any changes, couldn't do anything else, which one of these three would be the go-to for me? And for me, based on my tastes and when I was reading comics and all that good stuff, I would still say it'd be this guy right here. I still like this particular Cable better than this one. This one's got, I think, in general, better proportions, and I love the plastic that they molded the arm out of, but that's really it. Other than that, I think everything about this particular Cable right here is a better look for Cable in general. Now, of course, that's going to depend on when you were reading comics and what version of Cable is your favorite, but if, like me, the classic look that Cable had for the longest time is your go-to, then this, I think, is still going to be the best choice. Now, out of the three of these, that's also the most expensive one. I see him regularly going for up to $60 online on the secondary market to pick up this guy right here. He is the most expensive of these three Cables to get a hold of, but I think that's because he's the most sought after. He's the one that has the most classic look that the most people want for their shelves. However, to go back to it, if you don't have any Cable figures in your collection and you're looking for a good, solid looking Cable figure that's going to look great on your shelf, dude, there's nothing wrong with this one here. It's not the classic look that I like, but it is a phenomenal figure, hands down. There's absolutely no downsides to this figure. The only downsides I can come up with are when comparing it to the classic look over here, which again is just my personal preference. It doesn't have anything to do with the figure itself. This is a phenomenal figure. Again, if I could judge anything about this and say, oh, this is something Hasbro did wrong, it would just be not giving him big enough guns for a Cable figure. I mean, that's really it, which can be solved fairly easily by just grabbing some guns from something else and giving them to him. So I think it is a phenomenal figure. I think it's well worth the retail price of 25 bucks. It's not my personal favorite, but damn, is it a great looking figure. But that is it, guys. Would love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching, and always remember to enjoy your collection.